Hello, is this Glenn?
Yes, it is, Felix. It's Glenn. I'm here. I'm here.
You know what? I wasn't sure if I should call you Glenn or Thrasher or Headbanger, or what would you prefer I call you?
It doesn't matter to me. Just don't call me late to dinner.
That's cool, man. I appreciate you coming on. I know we actually had to plan it out in advance because I know you still got a busy schedule ahead of you. Just because you ain't in the WWE doesn't necessarily mean you're not wrestling anymore.
You're absolutely right.
I believe my co-host actually should be coming in here in just a minute here. Let me see if he's calling in. Hello, is this Austin?
Hey, Felix.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had you there for a second. All right,
how you
Austin.
doing, Glenn?
Good. How are you, Austin?
Doing great.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get some things going here. We'll start off just like I normally do. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you. Austin has a couple of questions, and we may just have, if anybody decides to call in, if you feel up to it, we'll have a couple of people call in and ask you questions if you're up for it. Is that cool?
Knock yourself out.
In my case, I'll tell you what. Austin, why don't you start off? I normally do, so I'm going to let you start off this time.
Okay, you had an extraordinary career. I mean, we were looking at your accomplishments in your career. You won so many championships. If you can name one moment that I guess that you remember, I know you probably remember all of your moments forever, but if you name one that stands out above all, what would it be?
It would either be, it's close. It's between WrestleMania 13, winning our first WrestleMania, and winning the WWE Tag Team titles, or WWF Tag Team titles in Louisville, Kentucky. They both are pretty high up there. It's hard to put one in front of the other. They're two accomplishments that, not too many people can actually say that they did that in a period of a year. So, we won at WrestleMania 13. We were, I would say, brand new to the company. We signed our contracts in November, and then WrestleMania 13 was in April, and so we were with the company maybe 7 months, and we were winning at WrestleMania. So yeah, it was. You don't get much bigger than winning WrestleMania or the tag team belts. So pretty hard to pick just one.
That's
true.
true.
I mean, if you can describe the feeling of WrestleMania, I mean, Felix described it to me, a few weeks ago. I'm going to be going to WrestleMania 30s in New Orleans next year. I mean, I want to know, how does it feel to be inside of an arena holding that many people?
It's hard to explain, I guess. It's weird because the only time you can really, I guess, know that there's all those people there and there's all those people watching you and everything else is when you initially walk out there and you get the reaction from the crowd, or and you see all the TV cameras on you and everything else, and you see all the WrestleMania signs. But once you get in that ring, it's pretty much, you're going out there and, pulling everything you can, doing everything you can, and just trying to put on the best show possible. So it's really hard to say, what it's like. I could say it's like being in the Super Bowl, but then again, how do you know what the Super Bowl is like? It's hard to describe to somebody.
Well, the one where you can sum it up, definitely indescribable, that's for sure.
It is. Words can't describe it, and it's definitely something that's very hard to explain to people.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I actually have a question for you. Let's take it back to the beginning. What about wrestling attracted you to want to actually be a part of it?
It's so funny. Everybody always asks that question. I was never, ever a wrestling fan. I mean, I watched it a long time ago when it was the WWF.
Okay.
Dad had it. When it was the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. And it only ran up and down the East Coast.
Yep.
And once a month, I lived in South Jersey at the time. Okay. And once a month, they used to wrestle in Philadelphia and it was in an arena called the Spectrum. And it used to air on cable TV, and the cable channel was called Prism. So they would have once a month, it was Spectrum Wrestling on Prism. And I would watch it maybe twice, 3 times a year. So it was, I never was really a big fan. I was never, I guess, like they are today, like fans of it, go to the arenas or anything else. I would watch it when it was on TV occasionally from time to time. But I was always in athletics. From the time I was 7 years old, I was playing football. I wrestled 4 years in high school, and then, getting out of high school, I didn't have, it sounds weird, I didn't have anything physical in my life to take out my aggression and anger and everything else. So, I went for a tryout at the world-famous Monster Factory by, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, who was trained, countless numbers of champions and superstars and everything else. And, it's just how I got into it. It wasn't something that, when I was little, I was like, ooh, I'm going to be a wrestler. Because back then, they were huge. I mean, you had Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy. I mean, these guys were just ginormous. When I graduated high school, I was 6'4" at like 180 pounds because I was a skinny little twig. And, you watch the guys on TV and you're like, oh my God, they're huge. There's no way. They would break me in half. So, I never had, that was never a career goal for me. But once I started, boy, it caught fast and furious. It was definitely like a sickness. It was once it got in my blood, it was there.
Well, back then it was definitely a big man sport, or a lot of people like to assume that, but people like Savage and Steamboat definitely helped pave the way. But that's cool. And did you actually, were you friends with Marsh mostly your entire life, or you guys met like some years back?
It was weird because once I started down at the Monster Factory, I turned into be the head trainer down there.
Okay.
And, I was wrestling by myself and everything else, and then I would train all the guys that would come in. I had my hands in training D'Lo Brown. I had hands in training Paul White, which everybody knows is the Big Show.
Yeah.
And I trained Chaz. We both wrestled in high school, and our high schools used to wrestle against each other. So we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other.
Gotcha.
So, when he came down to wrestling school, he was built the same way I was. It was weird. We always say that, this is my brother from another mother. That, it was almost, we were identical. And when we first started, we used to wear masks. And we were so identical that my mom used to always go up and talk to him first before she would talk to me. And, she couldn't tell us apart when we had the masks on. So, it was just, it was something that, we got along really good. We kind of, I already knew, all the connections with, Memphis and Lawler and, Smoky Mountain Wrestling with Cornette and everything else. And back then, you never wanted to go to territories like that by yourself. Because you were going down there, you were starving to death. You didn't want to go by yourself. It made it so much harder. So, Chaz was only in the business maybe 4 to 6 months, and we packed up our car and we went to Memphis.
Nice.
So
nice.
I was like, hey, I'm going to start with somebody else. At least I'll have somebody with me.
yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. You definitely want to have have somebody to talk to.
But I can actually say he is my, longest reigning marriage.
So, I got to ask, going off the subject real quick, when you guys came into the WWE, did you guys actually, was the headbanger gimmick already established, or was that something that was thought of? And let me ask, who actually thought of the idea?
It's so funny. Everybody, another question that everybody always says, because everybody knows that Vince McMahon, he's the one that makes the stars.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon likes to say, hey, I made John Cena, I made The Rock, I made Stone Cold Steve Austin, I made 316. So he likes to make the stars. But when we went from USWA to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Jim Cornette doesn't like wrestlers that wear hoods. So he was like, I love you guys and blah, 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 but I don't like the mask. So I need to come up with some kind of idea for you guys. Now, mind you, we always had the tattoos. I've always had the piercing. We've always listened to Slayer and Marilyn Manson and, all those bands.
Uh-huh.
So, he's like, he comes to us one day, he's like, listen, I just went to a dancing concert, and I don't know, to sing Cornette in a dancing concert was just, to me would be funny. But he's like, these guys were mosh pitting, they were slam dancing each other, they were spitting on each other, they were nuts. He goes, and it reminded me of you guys. He goes, I looked at them, he goes, and I was like, Headbangers. So that's how we came up with the Headbanger name.
Nice.
And then he came up with, first it was Mosh and Slasher, and then he changed it to Thrasher. And that's how it was. And once Smoky Mountain started going out of business, what Jim Cornette did is he tried to get, most of his guys up to WWE or WWF at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this was back in the day where they were trying to get rid of the job guys, the Saturday morning beat-up guys and everything else, and they were trying to have more competitive matches. But with guys that were not under a contract. They were under a part-time contract.
Mm-hmm.
So we went up there and we tried out as the Headbangers. We got part-time contracts. And, in the part-time contracts, it was great. We came, did TVs, and that was it. That's all we had to do. We put everybody over, but the matches were more competitive. Mm-hmm. And then one thing led to another, and the fans started buying into us and, getting behind us, and they could see what we were about and everything else. And at that time, why did you like Marilyn Manson? Because everybody told you not to. Exactly. So, it was part of the whole rebellion stage, Why did you listen to the heavy metal music? Because your mom told you to turn that shit off and turn it down, and, that's crazy stuff. So, it was more or less the fans that really made us, what we were. So.
Okay. Now I got to ask too, since we're talking about that era, they had Raw, they hadn't established SmackDown. They came up with the craziest idea for a show, and yet it's still.
Awesome.
I have to go with asking you, what was it like competing on Shotgun Saturday Night?
Shotgun Saturday Night was so much fun.
I can't imagine how crazy it got there.
I'll give people the premise behind the whole thing. It was Shotgun Saturday Night. It was on Saturday night, and I believe it was on at 11 o'clock at night. I think it was on from 11 to 12 or 10 to 11 or something like that. It was on late. And what we would do is, see, me and Kaz are originally from South Jersey. Mm-hmm. So we were right outside of New York City. He would go up and he would rent out a club before it opened or before it got really busy and stuff like that, and he would put a wrestling ring in there. And it was just craziness. I mean, we used to have so much fun at the Shotgun Saturday Night matches. It was unbelievable. And we would always be on it because we were right there in New Jersey, so it was cheap for Vince to have us on the show because he didn't have to pay anything because we were right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were some of the best, craziest nights. Oh, my God. It was someone. One time, it was one of the first times we went up there to do Shotgun Saturday Night. Me and Kaz were just talking about the story the other day. We parked our car in the parking garage and everything else, and of course, we go in 10:30 and everything else, and we come out and it's like 1:30. Here, the damn parking garage closed at 12. We were stuck in the city all night trying to wait for our car to get out at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. Oh, it's hysterical. So we laughed about that today when we were talking about, going up to New York and doing some stuff around WrestleMania time and stuff like that. We were like, well, we got to make sure we don't park our car in the garage.
That is awesome. Now that's and it's funny as you traveling up and down the road, you guys just have so many stories to look back on and so many memories. It's hard not to look back and not laugh about it because you can't imagine how crazy that would have been, or the crazy moments that they were, that you just go back and you look at them and you just laugh about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments that we go back and we just talk amongst ourselves about, because there's a lot of things that I'm surprised we never got in trouble for. If we would have the social media today, back then, there's no chance that we wouldn't be in a 6x6 cell somewhere. Just the Headbanger thing, it wasn't a gimmick, it wasn't a persona, it was really characters. It was us. I mean, that's how we really are. I still listen to my Marilyn Manson CDs and AC/DC and some of the old school hard rock stuff and Metallica and stuff like that.
They don't make that kind of stuff anymore, man. I can understand that.
Yeah. So it's not a get up. That's who we are. I mean, I still pull pranks. My 4 kids, all I do is pull pranks on them all the time. Just the other day I took saran wrap and I saran wrapped the toilet seat. So they went and, went to sit down and go to the bathroom and got it all over themselves. I mean, just, I do that all the time. I'll saran wrap the doorway and they'll walk, into the saran wrap and just be covered in it. And, just stupid, funny shit. And stuff like that.
So let me ask you, going over your career over the last several years, you guys have been wrestling for what, almost 20 years, right?
Yeah, I've been wrestling, over 20 years, yep.
Who would you say has been the biggest ribber that you guys have ever really been around, whether it be
Davey and Owen,
Indies?
Hands down, Davey and Owen. Because it was so funny because one would do something and the other one would deny it, and then the other one would do something and the other one would deny it. They were a tandem, and if it was just funny because you'd be sitting there talking to Jim Ross and stuff like that about serious business and everything else, and either Owen or Davey would come up and they would drop a little stink bomb on the ground and then they would step on it and they would shatter that glass, and just the smell of raw eggs would just come over, and you got Jim Ross like staring at you going, "Kid, you got to get up and go to the bathroom or something." My God, they would do it was stupid harmless stuff that they would do. One time they took me and Chaz's, wrestling bags and they padlocked it together. I've seen them padlock, somebody's wrestling bag to a table just to, just to see what they would do. It was funny, harmless stuff that, nobody ever got mad about or anything else. And, back then it was so much different. I tell everybody this, everybody's like, tell me what the Attitude Era was like in one word. And, one word, the best word I could possibly think of would be family. Everybody was like a family. There was my oldest daughter, she's 19 now. She remembers being in the arena and playing tag with China in the arena. They would, when you wrestled Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and it was in your hometown, you would bring your family, your kids, and everything else. And, it wouldn't be anything to see, Owen Hart in the cafeteria with coloring books coloring with one of your kids, or find China out there, playing tag with them, or finding my she's now 17-year-old daughter attached to Steve Austin's leg because she thinks it looks like Daddy. So that's just the way it was like. You see, Cactus Jack Mankind, whatever his name was at that time. Sitting down there, reading the stories to the kids and stuff like that. It was always like that. Everybody always wants their kids. Brett used to bring his kids, and Mick used to bring his kids, and it was always like that.
And it's funny you should say that too, because I actually just a couple of weeks ago I was watching Wrestling with Shadows, and I'd seen a cameo from you and Chaz in that. Not necessarily you were talking, but you guys were basically there playing with Brett's kids. So, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yep.
But how intense was it during that time? And I say this in the sense that of the Monday Night Wars, because I know that was a pretty intense time for both companies.
Well, I don't know if it was intense. It was a competition for us. You know, you'd be, you know, you see the rundown sheet and everything else, and you see where your, you know, segment landed and stuff like that. And you go out there and you're like, whatever segment WCW's putting on right now, I'm going to kick the shit out of it, because I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bust my ass, and it's going to be nothing that they can beat. And then Tuesday morning, you know, you hurry up and got to the arena and stuff like that, and wanted to see what the ratings were. You wanted to see if we beat them. You know, what segments beat other segments, because, you know, they used to do it, you know, every 15 minutes, every half hour, an hour for different ratings and stuff like that. They got all kinds of stuff like that.
Wow.
But, you know, it was always, you know, you always had competition. You know, what makes sporting, you know, events so good, it's the competition. You know, what made WWF so good back then is because the competition of WCW.
Yeah.
What makes WWE so good now? Nothing. There is, you know, TNA, you know, it's getting there. I'm telling you, in another 2 years, 3 years, it's going to be right up there with WWE. I'm telling you, I like the way TNA's going. Their storylines are crisp. They're, you know, they're good. You know, the guys, it's just appealing to me. You know, there's guys that you can care about. You know, with WWE, everybody is trying to be Steve Austin. You know, everybody's trying to be an ass kicker and, you know, everything else. And, you know, there's, you know, back in the Attitude Era, there was characters
plenty of
people could care about. You know, they could get emotionally invested into.
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't have characters like that. You have one character, but the only thing he goes out does is gets his ass beat all the time is, you know, Zack Ryder. You know, Zack got himself over. Zack is an awful lot like us. We went out, we got ourselves over. Vince didn't have it. You know, he put his on TV, granted, he did that. But we went out there, and the fans and us got ourselves over. Same thing with Zack. Vince can do anything he wants to Zack Ryder, and the people will still be up there doing woo, 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 as, you know, every single time he'll come out. Every single time. Vince could put cones on us, could put us in nun outfits and everything else, and people wouldn't care. They would still be right behind us.
If memory serves, you guys actually came out dressed as nuns at one point. Am I correct?
Exactly, yes. That's why I said that.
So you just kind of
I'm leading
my
you
memory
into another question.
Well, no, actually, it was funny because I grew up during that time. I was like a teenager. I was like anywhere between the ages of 17 to 21 during that time. So I know that as times moved on from the new generation type format to the little edgier, because, you know, times are just changing, which is why when the competition was going, everything was, you know, on the line. They basically let you guys go out there and hit home runs every night, and that's what you did. You know, you hit home runs every night, and not all of it worked. True,
no,
but you know what?
No,
you guys.
God, no.
What's that?
No, God, you know, not all of it ever worked. You're absolutely right. There was a lot of things that were a big miss, and there was a lot of things that were unbelievable that'll never be duplicated again. So, you know, it was trial and error. It was, you know, and that's the other thing about the Attitude Era. Everybody knew where their position was in the company. We knew, you know, as the Headbangers, we knew we weren't, you know, main event. We knew that, you know, that was Rocky's job. That was Steve's job. That was, you know, Sean's job. That was Brett. That was Undertaker. That was those guys. The Rock, that was their job. You know, and I was going to do everything I could to make my match the best possible, to make their match even better.
No doubt. No doubt.
You know, and that's, I don't know if that's the same case as, you know, back then as it is today. I don't know. So, you know.
Well, I got to ask, though, because I know this has been brought up and even in joking matters or even serious at that point, between the New Age Outlaws, you know, Billy and Brian. I was wondering, since have you guys actually been in contact at all with WWE? And the reason I ask that is because it looks like we haven't seen the last of those guys. And I know you guys were joking at one point about maybe having one more run in the tag team division where it's WWE's is kind of really sinking horribly. Would you guys ever consider having another run?
Is we would absolutely love, to have one more run and everything else. I don't know if, WWE is actually interested in anything like that. They're interested in Billy and Jesse because they're part of DX. And I understand that. They're still relevant. They're still out there. They can still, people can still remember who they are. The people that are 14, 15 years old that, are watching it now, they're not going to know who the hell we are.
Amen to that.
Except from videotapes and stuff like that, they're not going to be able to sit there and go, oh, I remember these guys. They're only going to remember us from videotape and stuff like that.
Actually, it's funny you should say that because they're going to ask you, what is a videotape?
What's that?
It's funny you should mention that because nowadays people ask, well, what's a videotape?
Right. But, in fairness, both of us, it's so funny because when I left WWF, I stopped wrestling altogether. I didn't wrestle from the time I left from, I guess it was 2001 up until a year and a half ago. I didn't get in the ring, didn't want to get in the ring, just got away from it totally. And boy, did I get away from it. When I got away from it, I got away from it.
Nice.
I got away from it so much, I was 310 pounds 2 years ago at this time. So, it's funny because I came down to Florida. Chaz lives in Florida now. And I came down for a surprise birthday party for him. And we got talking and everything else. And, I was down here with the family. We were going to Disney. I was like, you know what? I love it down here. I went up there. I packed up my whole family. I moved down here. In 6 months, I lost 90 pounds. And I am literally in the best shape. And everybody always says it. It's such a cliche when, you hear all these guys wrestle and, Jake and everything else. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in better shape, and I can actually say it. I'm in better shape now. My wrestling weight now is lower than it was back when I was there. When I left WWF, I wasn't really, I guess, smart with the nutrition and the weight room and stuff like that and everything else. So as I got older, I got wiser. So I'm real good with it now, and I'm happy where I'm at. Like I said, there's nothing I didn't do then that I can't do now.
That's true. That's true because I've actually seen your matches in Ring of Honor as of late, just most recently when you guys had a run out there. You guys were kicking ass, man, no doubt.
Yeah, we were only, we only did a per appearance with them. It was something that was short. It was something trying to get us, relevant again. If something else comes up with, Ring of Honor, we'd be glad to do it. As well as with anybody. I would, we just want to go where we can contribute. All we need is an opportunity for somebody to go, hey, you know what? Let me just see what they have. What's it going to cost them to go, you know what? Let's just give them a dark match and see, if they can actually do what they say they're going to do. What's it going to cost them?
Of course.
I mean, where's the harm in it?
Nothing at all. Couldn't hurt at all.
Throw a brother a bone, shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, Glenn, we're going to take a quick commercial break here, and when we come back, if Austin has any more questions for you, otherwise, if it's okay, I may have a couple more, and then we'll take some calls, if that's cool.
Oh, you got it.
All right, hang in there for just a second. And we are back here. Yes, definitely a show you don't want to miss. Tune in next Tuesday night. We have Matt Taven. But for now, we're continuing on our conversation with one of the headbangers, Thrasher, Glenn. Telling some great stories, let me tell you. If you haven't already been listening, you need to tune in now because I'm sure we got some more to come. All right, let's bring him back on. All righty, we are back now.
It actually tells me unmuted. You can now say whatever you want.
Oh, really?
Right. Yeah, it tells you you're unmuted.
Oh.
real professional get up you got going on. I like it.
Hey, honestly, I don't like to put censors on certain things. I mean, if you got something to say, by all means, I definitely encourage you to say whatever you feel.
See, and that's one of our downfalls is we probably say too much, and we really don't give a shit.
And that's okay. That's okay. Some people just need to get their on how they shouldn't have their panties in a wad. Let's just put it that way. People have opinions.
That's right.
If you don't like it, that you don't have to listen. If you like it, that's cool too.
It's entertainment. Come on, where's the entertainment in wrestling anymore? God.
I would have to say that the writers kind of killed it.
I was actually entertained Monday. I saw clips from it. I can't really say that I saw that much of it, but I was entertained to see the Humpty Tonk Man shatter that guitar, over the head of what's his face?
Heath Slater.
Yeah.
Well, we can actually move into Austin. Did you have any other questions for Glenn?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you've probably been asked this question over 1,000 times. I'm gonna ask it one more time. I was gonna say that.
No, I will not make out with you. I'm here to talk about wrestling, buddy. I will not make out with you.
I was gonna
but
say,
if you got any other questions, shoot.
You've wrestled many tag teams in your career. I want to know if the ones you haven't wrestled, who would you want to wrestle the most?
Who would I want to wrestle the most?
If you have the chance.
That I haven't wrestled? God, who I would really like to wrestle is the Powers of Pain, the Barbarians and the Warlords.
Choice. Definitely an interesting choice.
I would love to wrestle. I was going to say, the Natural Disasters, but we actually wrestled, half of them, with being, the Earthquake, John Tenna.
Oh, he was an entertainer. Let me tell you, he was awesome.
Yeah, what a time for us to, once we found out that's who was under that mask was, Earthquake.
Yeah.
And let me tell you for the oddities, that's who was under the mask for
I remember well.
And what a guy he was. Just an upfront professional, just a great guy.
I don't think I've ever heard any bad stories about John.
No,
Not
me
even,
either. Me either. Yeah, it was so funny because, in the business back then, the guys that came before you showed them respect by, going up to them. If you had a match with them, going, sir, whatever you would like to do tonight, you just let me know. I'm here for you. We would go up to John and say that every single time we wrestled the oddities. And every single time he would tell us to shut the hell up and we would go out there and just do whatever we want.
That's awesome.
So
not many people knew that John was under the mask, though. It was kind of obvious at some point for some fans who watched when he was still wrestling with Fred as the Natural Disasters. But it was cool. I mean, it was another opportunity for him to go out and connect with the fans again, and I think he definitely did. Him with Luna and the other guys, and it was a great time back then. Yeah,
it certainly was.
Now, do you actually keep up with any of with Ring of Honor, TNA, WWE stories at all as of late? I mean, you said you've also been keeping a close eye on TNA. Have you considered possibly if they've ever given an opportunity to you to maybe go down to, I guess it would be in Orlando, where they had, it would be Orlando where they have their facility. Unless they moved it.
Yeah, we're actually 2.5 hours away from Orlando. We both actually live in South Florida. We actually live 12 miles apart from each other. I can honestly tell you that I probably talk to Chaz more than I talk to my wife. And he would probably say the same thing. It's weird. We talk to each other all the time. My kids sleep over at his house. His son sleeps over at my house all the time. We have a relationship. We're family. So, we've talked about, TNA and everything else because WWE was in Miami recently doing SmackDown. I believe it was in February. And we went down just to say hi to people and everything else and, just to see the atmosphere of everything and, to see a couple people, because we know, people behind the scenes, like, Jesse's behind the scene as an agent, Dean Malenko's behind the scenes as an agent, just people like that. We went there, and, everybody, all the talent and everything else was extremely respectful. They came over to us, introduced themselves, said hi, were very, very cordial to us. But it was a different locker room. It was just really, really different feeling. Nobody, back at the Attitude Era, you could always find The Undertaker and, The Godfather and, Phineas and everything else playing dominoes in the cafeteria and stuff like that. We're playing cards somewhere. You could always find somebody playing some kind of game. People would bring their video games and be playing in the locker room and stuff like that. And it was just such a, different atmosphere now. I don't know if it's because it's more business oriented now and they're treating it more like a business. I don't know. But then, a week and a half after that, we went up to, me and Chaz just so happened to be in Orlando on a Thursday, and we stopped by the Impact Zone and stuff like that. It's when Bubba was getting married. We were actually up there for Bubba's wedding, and we were backstage and everything else. And, it was more, I guess, because those guys are more from our time than the guys in the WWE are. Yeah. So it was more, it felt more, I'm going to say homey, than the WWE at that time did. It was weird. We just want to go and contribute and give back, just like the same thing that it was when we first started. I can't tell you the countless times that, Hawk and Animal would pull us aside and go, boys, we're here to make you guys, better. Vince is really high on you guys. And their first match back at the Manhattan Center, when they came back after that long, long period of time that they were gone, they pulled us aside and said, hey, we're working you guys tonight. And we're like, oh, shit, God damn it. We thought we were getting somewhere. And they're like, no, Vince is really high on you guys. We're going to have a double count out or a double disqualification and everything else. You guys are the future. We're here to help you guys out. That's what we want to do now. We want to be able to, give back to, the younger guys and stuff like that. The knowledge and the experience that we have. And, like I already said, all we want is an opportunity to, show everybody, we still have what we have. It's funny, when we first went up to Ring of Honor, it was this time last year, Jim Cornette came down here for a match, and it was right around WrestleMania time. And the last time he saw me, I was 310. So now he saw me again, a year later, 2 years later after, I saw him, and he was like, holy shit, it's like 1997 all over again. And then he saw us wrestle, and we went out there and we wrestled a three corners match, a tag match. And he went out there and he goes, to say you guys stole the show would be an understatement. He goes, my God, he goes, if you guys lost a step, you found it, because it looks like you guys gained a couple steps. So, it was nice to, and if anybody knows Cornette just doesn't say things to blow up your ego. That's not what he does. That's not Jimmy at all. Cornette is one of the guys that'll tell you the hard truth, whether you like it or not. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask the question. So, that's how, Jimmy has always been. So we knew he was being honest and everything else. And, I just, we just want an opportunity. We just want a chance.
Actually, Glenn, I actually wanted to let you know, if you haven't heard already, too, it's being reported that, and I don't know how true it is, but apparently WWE has just confirmed the passing of Paul Bearer.
No way.
I just read about it right now. I kid you not. I'm looking it up as we speak right now.
Is it on WWE.com?
as in WWE.com, as in everybody is even putting their condolences out. Scotty Riggs, Dustin Rhodes. Apparently, he just recently passed away tonight.
That is not my.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
But I thought
That's
I should let you
crazy.
know.
I just talked to him last week.
I figured I'd let you
through,
know, because I know he's probably a good friend of yours as well.
Through Facebook, extremely good friend and a super guy.
I definitely would send the condolences your way as well, considering he is a friend, and to his family, and to his WWE family at that. Definitely close friends with The Undertaker and with Kane.
Wow.
But yeah, I didn't mean to be the icebreaker with that, but I just found out, and I knew that you worked with him, and like I said, definitely good friends.
Wow.
But,
yeah.
I think we left everybody with a loss for words, and that was definitely not my intention, and I do apologize. But
wow.
I'll tell you what, we'll take a couple of questions. We have 2 callers on the line, and then we'll go ahead and I'll let you go ahead and go end the show for tonight. Is that cool?
All right, I'll try to recover from that, but
is it cool, or would you?
No, you're fine. Yeah, I don't. That's fine.
Okay, I'll go ahead and bring on the first caller right now. Hello, you're on the air with Headbanger Thrasher. Do you have any question for him?
Yeah, I do. This is actually AJ Trahan. I did the Wrestling Road Diaries. Like, I'm just starting out a professional career, and my big question, starting out, what would be like, what kind of advice could you give me in keeping up with the business, keeping up with, going from place to place, going from show to show?
The best advice that you could possibly have is, especially nowadays with social media and YouTube and everything else, is get your stuff out there. Let people know who you are and everything else, and come up with a persona for yourself that's not far from yourself.
Okay.
You got to have your gimmick, your character has to have a little bit, or if not a lot, of you in it. And it's so much easier to portray something that is you rather than something that's not. And just the best thing that you could do is when you're in locker rooms, keep your mouth shut and listen.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than being in a locker room with a veteran, regardless of who it is or where they've been and everything else, and you have a kid that's on his second match and comes up to you and goes, "Hey, man, this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that," and you can no, you sit there and shut up and you do what he says. He's been there, done that, you'll learn something. So the best advice you can have is get yourself out there, publicly, and keep your mouth shut and listen.
Okay.
And never stop. Never stop. Don't give up.
Oh, I won't. Believe me, I won't. Thank you very much.
All right.
All righty. Thank you so much for calling in. Okay, looks like we'll have to take our next caller here. I believe this is our buddy Matt, but let me double check here. Matt, is that you?
Yes, it is, Felix.
All right. Do you have a question for Glenn?
Yes, I do. Hi, Thrasher. My name's
Hey,
Matt.
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing good, sir. I got a great question to ask you. What was it like, you and Moss competing at WrestleMania 2000 with, let me guess, the Godfather, Taz, the APA, and the Mean Street Posse? What was it like going out there, going back 12 years ago with the crowd? It must have been electric walking out.
You're talking about the Hardcore Battle Royal.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That was like one of my favorite matches of all time.
Yeah, that was. It was, that Hardcore Battle Royal, that whole hardcore movement back then. It was that 24/7 with Crash Holly and everything. It was so much fun to do. Everybody remembers, when we chased him through Funtime USA and everything else, and it was like an amusement park inside, and you know, the hardcore matches, it was so much fun, and you know, we got to do a lot of stuff in that match that normally we don't do. You know, we're not hardcore wrestlers or anything else like that, but my God, give me a chair and I'll bust somebody with it. But it was a lot of fun. You know, our time up there, we're very lucky to be in 3 WrestleManias. You know, quite a bit of other pay-per-views and stuff like that. So you know, we had a great time when we were up there, and you know, it's extremely hard, like I said before, to explain to the people what it's like going out during a WrestleMania. It's definitely, you know, there's no words for it. It's electric is a great word for it.
Yeah. I wish the WWE would do that again 12 years later.
You never know. Never say never in this business. You never say never.
Well, thank you for answering my questions, Thrasher. And tell Monster I said hi. And
all right.
I think that's going to do it for me. I only have one question in mind, so thank you for answering my question.
Did you want to did you want to just listen in, or do you want to just go put you back on hold so you can listen to the last bit of the show?
Well, I've got my computer up, so I'm going to listen to the rest of the show. Thanks, Thrasher.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too, sir.
All right. That was cool. I had some good questions for tonight. As far as any more questions, I think we've definitely told some great stories, had some good questions. Had an unfortunate news that I had to give you, and I apologize for that once again. But Austin, did you have any final questions for Glenn tonight?
I just want to really thank him for coming on the show. I mean, he's really inspired me from that throughout this whole entire
Glenn, actually, our good buddy here, Austin, is considering the road of becoming a professional wrestler as well. So I can assume he took your advice as well as what you told the other young man that called in.
It's so funny because, you know, like I said before, when I first started, I was 170 pounds. And the best advice that Larry Sharp from the Monster Factory ever told me is I said to him after my tryout, I said, listen, let me come back and learn how to do all this stuff at like 220 and stuff like that, so I'm bigger and everything else. He looked at me and he goes, kid, it'll be a lot easier to teach you how to do all these flips and everything else at 170 pounds than it will be at 220. It made more sense to me than ever, and I signed up that following Monday, and 6 months after that I was in Japan wrestling with Abdullah the Butcher and Stan Hansen and Danny Spivey and all them guys. So, you know, you got to make out of it what you want. If you want it, it's there to do it. You just have to want it. And keep your chin tucked.
So much for that.
All righty, man.
Because if not, you'll knock yourself out and you'll be done.
Actually, I've seen that from seasons of Tough Enough when they don't tuck their chin.
That's right.
They end up hurting themselves. Let's just say that.
Yep.
But, all right, Glenn, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Definitely shared some good stuff, great memories from Attitude Era and how you got your start. Hopefully, maybe somewhere down the line, maybe later this year or sometime in the near future, we'll definitely love to have you back on.
All right, man. Sounds good.
All right, you have yourself a good night. I know it's almost close to midnight over there, so get some sleep, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.